She was hearing it through her headphones. Good morning, everybody. I'm Joe Braemar, and welcome to the Less Than Yesterday show, powered by your friends here at Treadmill Heroes, home of new and used fitness equipment for your home and facility. And don't forget, we also have saunas, which are a tasty treat out in your garage this time of year when it's so cold. But way more importantly, I have two of Wilton High School's brightest stars, a couple seniors. I've got Amber Oyne with me here and Kristen Zeiser with me here. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
I was telling you when you came in, thank goodness you guys came in, because this was turning into the high school dude show in here. All we were having was dudes hanging around in here, which is fun, right? But I can only talk about football and wrestling so much before my eyes start to glaze over a little bit. So thank you for stopping in.
Yeah, of course.
So I want to just hop right to it. I want to hop right to it here. I want to talk to you about your dad real quick. We want to get this rolling, right? So you recently lost your dad, Andy, and I want to tell you a quick story. And I sent you a text earlier, and I asked if it was okay if I told you a story. So can I tell you a little quick something about your dad?
Of course.
So your dad and I were 1 year apart, he was 1 year older than me. And when they built the new junior high up at the school, because the junior high was an add-on to the original high school back in the, mid-90s. He was the first 8th grade class, and I was the first 7th grade class to christen the building, right? And we used to hang out before the bell would ring right outside the superintendent's office. We would all gather there. There's those double doors, and then the double doors, and there's like that breezeway right there.
Yeah.
So we would all be crammed in there like sardines in the wintertime when it was cold. And we grew up in some amazing eras as kids. And one of the eras we grew up in was the Beavis and Butthead era. Are you guys familiar with who Beavis and Butthead are or were?
Yeah.
Okay. Your dad and another guy by the name of Casey Wyatt could do the most uncanny, perfect impression of Beavis and Butthead. And we would all be crammed into that area there. I'm going to call it a breezeway. And all the other kids would be talking, and Casey and Andy would be having a Beavis and Butthead side commentary. Have you ever watched, do you know what the premise of Beavis and Butthead were?
I've just heard about it. I have no
Okay,
no
I'll give you the quick 30-second rundown. So it was on MTV, and it was at the end of kind of the music video era. MTV was starting to lose viewership on music videos, but they didn't really want to lose their audience. So they thought, well, let's come up with a cartoon, and we'll just have these two just dumb guys in a cartoon be fans of old music videos, and we'll have them sitting on a couch giving commentary on real music videos that took place, 10 years ago, and watching it almost through a new lens, and they would just rip on these music videos like, who's this guy, and it would be like an old Guns N' Roses music video. And so Andy and Casey would be listening to other conversations, and they would be ripping on those conversations as if they were Beavis and Butthead. For example, they might overhear somebody say, I forgot my homework at home, and they'd be like, what a dumbass, and forgot their homework. and they would do this every morning. But my point is, your dad was a very funny guy, and he was funny in a special way. I always considered myself a funny guy, but I was the loud guy, the class clown, like, hey, everybody look at me, you're going to hear me even if you don't like me, right? Your dad was a quiet, witty, funny guy.
Yes.
Like, people would lean back when I would try to be funny. People would lean in when he was about to say something because they knew something smart and witty was about to come out of his mouth. And I always looked up to him for that, because that was a magic power I didn't have. I didn't have the quiet wittiness. He did, and he was so smart and so funny. And I always looked up to him for that. So I just thought I'd share that with you. I'm sure you've heard lots of stories about your dad, especially over the last month or two. So anyway, I didn't want to put you on the spot or anything. I'm not looking for a response. I just wanted to tell you that little story and let you know that he holds a special part in my comedy heart. So anyway, welcome to the show. You two are friends.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Starting with you, Amber. How long have you two been friends?
Oh, goodness. We've been friends since, like, 2nd grade. We played on a coach pitch softball team together, and then we kind of grew up together playing sports. We played softball, volleyball, basketball together. We were always on the same team, and, I mean, we've always kind of been close since, like, 2nd grade when we played softball through Parents for Youth.
Really? Kirsten, what is your earliest memory of you two becoming friends?
Probably just like
Hold that mic up nice and close.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you fine, but I want to make sure everybody watching can.
earliest memory. I just remember me, you, and Leela would always hang out while we were just sitting down, had nothing to do, run around at the playgrounds and stuff like
Who's
that.
Leela?
Leela, she's our other friend. She played softball, basketball, volleyball with us growing up. She's also in the musical. She played Donna, the lead role.
Tell me about this musical. What is this musical thing? Was this when you were way back younger? Or
No, this was recently.
this was
the last
the
one.
musical that we just did, Mamma Mia.
okay, so this is a musical that the school put on,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Tell me about it. Is this done through chorus?
We did it through our drama program, but our choir was very involved in it. Most of our cast members were in choir, which is kind of an essential part of a musical. You kind of have to be able to sing if you're going to sing songs and tell a storyline. But we did that in November.
Yeah, November 15th and 16th.
Is it hard to get kids to go out for the plays and for the performing arts?
There were a lot of girls. I feel like more so guys who don't go out usually.
Yeah, that's usually the trend, which is unfortunate because you would think more, especially more guys that are into athletics would have no problem doing the performing arts. Let's face it, a gym full of people for a basketball game or a bleachers full for a football game.
Yeah,
That's a lot of people compared to the people that make it to, grandma and mom and dad that come to the performing arts.
Yeah.
And the group of guys that are doing it is kind of growing. You do see a lot more athletes starting to come in as their friends are telling them, hey, this is really fun. I just did this. Do you want to come do it with me? So there are like a couple outstanding guys that come in and nobody expects them to be into it. They're just here because someone told them they have to be. But they get really into it, and it's really cool to see a different side of some of these guys you see at school and on the court or the field, and you get to see this entire other side of them on the stage.
I think the hardest part for some of the guys is to shed the too cool coat, right? Yeah. Because there's a persona, I'm a cool guy, and you put yourself out there when you're playing a character or you're performing on stage, and it can be nerve-wracking. I remember the first time I sang a part on stage, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so like a fish out of water here because, I always liked the performing arts thing, but I always wanted to do the edgy, cool thing on stage, right? Yeah. And to actually put yourself out there and put yourself into an actual role and say, I'm playing this character here, it can be nerve-wracking for guys. Speaking of guys, what's up with this damn broccoli top? Can we get rid of the broccoli top haircut? Yeah. Like, I know I'm sounding like an old guy here and fashion trends come and go, but does that look good? Are girls into the broccoli top?
Well, I don't know I know there definitely are girls that are like, oh my gosh, he's so cute. He has like the curly hair, whatever. It's not something that I'm personally a fan of, but
that and the bleached ends.
Oh my gosh.
We used to call them frosty tips.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's coming back?
It was because of football, them going to state. Some guys did that.
Yeah. So for state football, a lot of them bleached their hair, but a lot of them coming back into school, so they had bleached their hair for state baseball as well. So a lot of them were coming into the school year with like old bleached hair, and it was grown out, and it it's just not cute.
Yeah, they didn't necessarily frost the tips. The tips were just the only thing hanging on
exactly.
still.
Exactly.
All right. Well, then let me ask you guys this. Would you rather have a guy that can throw a fast ball or drive a fast car? Who would you pick?
Probably a fastball because, I don't know, they're active. They like to do stuff. I don't really care about cars or know anything about cars.
Well, and I would have to partially disagree with you on that. I would definitely say can throw a fastball because that's more of a skill. I think driving a fast car can be taught. So if you start with a baseline of throwing a fastball, you can teach them how to drive a fast car.
Yeah. Well, and I figured you'd lean that way because you grew up in a car family.
Yes.
Right?
Very much so.
Cars are part of your family's culture. Is your family into cars much or more sports?
More sports, I would say.
Yeah.
My dad's a big sports guy. Yeah.
It all comes down to dad, right?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
that's probably why I don't watch much football on Sundays
Yeah.
because my dad and I didn't watch any football.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
my dad just. I don't know if my dad could name 6 NFL teams. He could, but like a player on each team, oh, give me a break. I know I couldn't do that.
Oh, yeah, no.
You two came highly recommended from multiple sources when I was starting this project where I'm like, I want to sit down with the seniors up at the school and kind of get to know them. Your names came up more than one time. And one of the adjectives that was used was extremely smart. So you guys are both smart. You guys get good grades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's smarter?
Amber, for sure.
Yeah?
For sure, yes.
How so?
Oh, she's like the top of our class right now. She's up there. I mean,
Let's brag on Amber for a second.
Yeah. She just, I don't know, she always gets her work done. She knows what she's doing all the time. If I ever need questions, I go and ask her, like, yeah.
Is schoolwork easy for you?
It depends on the subject. I have definitely always been, I would say, better at math and sciences, which is really kind of different for the girls in our school. Like a lot of the girls in our school are more, oh, I really like writing. I really like learning about history and doing this kind of thing. But I've always been into more of the STEM classes. I really enjoy writing as well, but I have always been a really big math science girl.
That is against the grain typically because I think boys at their core like to look at a problem and figure out how to solve that problem, right? Just men and boys in general. Like, well, tell me what the problem is and I'll fix it. And so therefore math, they tend to gravitate towards that because there's a clear right and wrong answer. And the gals tend to lean more towards like reading and writing because it's all about like absorbing what this content is and then breaking it down on how you understand it. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so that's interesting that you're into more math and the sciences and things like that. Do you follow those kind of topics on social media?
Not really. With social media, it's kind of like I'm just looking at whatever's on there. I don't look for things specifically, and it's almost like I'm getting away from school when I'm looking at social media. So like when I'm in school, I'm really big math, science. If I'm studying, I'm focused on those topics. But if I'm doing anything else, I kind of shy away from math and science.
Well, what I mean by that is not necessarily from a self-education standpoint, but more from just a general interest standpoint, like a Neil deGrasse, who's always talking about space and all these other things. And certainly there's all kinds of things about flat earth. And I mean, there's all kinds of noise out there among, TikTok and some of these other things. Do you fall into any of those rabbit holes, or are we looking at the latest fashion trend on Instagram?
Honestly, the rabbit holes that I find myself falling into the most are the history rabbit holes. Like if I find anything on World War II is a big one. I love researching World War II and the Holocaust. And we finished a series recently. It's called Hunting Hitler. And it was basically this group of scientists that were following his path and seeing where all of the places he went, his different pit stops, because they didn't think that he died in the bunker.
Sure.
So it followed him, and he had a trail until like 1960.
Really?
Yeah.
I love those kind of things. And then inevitably you ran into like the treasure around, you know, that whole regime, because when they would go into these countries and they'd conquer these countries, they would take all of their fancy paintings and the gold and everything else. I like to kind of look into, where did all that go? It went somewhere. So anyway, that's interesting. What kind of rabbit holes you fallen into, Amber?
Well, like kind of the same ones, and the Titanic too. Like I
could talk Titanic forever.
That's
Titanic or the Olympic? Titanic or the Olympic, right?
Yeah, I know. I like usually those ones. History stuff I fall into too. Some conspiracy theories, not that I believe all of them, but like I just find them interesting to hear from other people's point of views.
What is your go-to conspiracy theory right now outside of the Titanic and the Olympic?
Right now, I haven't seen a lot of them recently, actually, but
and we won't even say that you believe it, just one that you're like looking at going, this is an interesting perspective.
What was the blue light or whatever? Like how the government
the
has,
lasers?
Like, those. I've heard about those a lot. Yeah, I don't know what to think about them. Aliens too, invasions. Those have been very big on TikTok right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your take on the drones?
The drones?
What's your take on the big drones that are flying around? They just came out with that video. It was a couple days ago. There was like 6 of them flying over, I believe, New Jersey, like the size of a car.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Kelly was talking about them during Life Skills yesterday, and he was talking about how the drones are like defying all laws of physics, like they shouldn't be able to fly.
Right. What's your take on it?
I don't even know what to think at this point. I don't know if it's coming from an international source. I don't know if we should be afraid of an alien invasion. I'm kind
so
of
much
lost
happening
with it.
in the world right now. I'm just
Yeah. It's hard to know up from down, and also the way that these videos can be produced now through AI.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, you can just say into AI, "Hey, make me a video of a giant drone flying over top of Wilton, Iowa."
Yeah.
You know, and they'll do it. Like you could literally take your phone and just shoot empty sky and be like, "Now make me something that looks terrifying and legit and real and everything else."
Yeah.
I think the technology is there, and I think these big drone things that are flying around are legit and they're real. I think they're safe. I think it's I don't know. You go back to World War II, right? And one of the most fascinating things that I learned about World War II were the big inflatable tanks. Do you remember those?
I do.
So, do you know what I'm talking about, Amber?
No idea.
Okay, well, back me up. I'm sorry, Kirsten. Back me up here, Amber. So, in World War II, the United States wanted to make our military force look a lot larger and more powerful than it really was. So what we did is we made these life-size inflatable tanks that were painted, and they looked like a real tank, and we blew up thousands of them on these battlefields. So when the enemy would fly over, they'd be like, whoa, I don't want to mess with all of that firepower. Was it the Ghost Army? Was that what it was called? There was a division of the military.
I think it was the Ghost Army or something along the lines of that, because they were trying to make it clever that it was like, oh, well, it's still our army, but they're not actually real.
Yeah. So I kind of look at the drone thing as the big balloon tank, where it's like, okay, it looks like it's big and scary, but maybe it's not.
Yeah.
I don't know what they could actually do with them, though. They're just like so small. I mean, I guess they could make them bigger, but I don't know what they could really do with them.
So speaking of education, I want to get your feedback on this idea. I don't know if you guys caught it, but I had Lynn Ochiltree in here last week, the guy who owns the Candy Kitchen, right? You know Lynn. And we got to talking about his archive of Wilton history. and he's got over 250,000 items from Wilton history, going all the way back to when the very first settler came to Wilton and said, "This is Wilton." He knows the firstborn here. He knows the first death here. He knows everything about, well, not everything there is to know about Wilton, but he's the guy, right?
Yeah.
And he wants to build a museum and show off all these artifacts. But I feel like there's so much rich history within this community that Lynn Ochiltree knows. So the question is, if there was a semester-long course up at the school that you got credit for that was led by Lynn Ochiltree, or as I like to call him, Doc Ock, right? He'll be Doc Ock up there. If Doc Ock is up there and he's teaching about all the people who built the town, bringing in actual artifacts, like real tangible things, like, hey, this is a 150-year-old drawer that came out of the hardware store, right? Mm-hmm. Would that be something that you'd be interested in? And would that be a class where you'd be like, man, I kind of like that class?
Oh, absolutely. And I've already learned so much from him in the year and a half-ish that I've worked at the Candy Kitchen. It's insane how much he knows and how many people he brings in to talk to, how many people will come in from random places that are like, oh, my ancestors were in Wilton, can you help me find this name? And Lynn will write it down. He'll take a name and a number, and he'll go back and research it, and he will call the people that came in asking about it to tell them about the person that he found.
He cares.
He does.
What do you think, Kirsten? Would that be something where you'd be like, yeah, this is kind of a groovy class. I like this.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I enjoy history classes, and I don't know a lot about Wilton, and I'm sure it would be interesting to have him as a teacher teaching us about it.
Well, and what's fascinating is he would be able to, like, teach a certain thing, like this person 150 years ago did this, this, and this for the town, and because of this person, we now have this. Mm-hmm. And then he can look at someone in the back of the class and go, oh, and by the way, that was your great-great-grandfather. Yeah. That would blow people's minds.
Yeah.
And he knows all of that. The thing that troubles me is I look at Lynn Ochiltree's knowledge and the archive and everything as like this huge bucket of confetti, and each piece has a little piece of history written on it, and he's holding that bucket. If Lynn does not figure out a way, and the community does not figure out a way to share all of that with people, it's like someday it's going to be like turning on a huge fan and dumping that confetti in front of it, and it's going to scatter everywhere. And we'll never get it all back into a bucket. That's just the way I kind of look at it. And I got to believe that this would be a neat thing. And speaking of that, you're not a Wilton native, you right? You're not born and raised here. Give me the history.
So I was born in Allendale, Michigan, kind of near Grand Rapids, and then I moved up here. First grade is when I started going here, and then I just grew up here, didn't move anywhere else after that.
Do you know why? Why'd your folks come to Wilton?
So we have family in Iowa. I don't know why we chose Wilton specifically, but we just kind of like the area, the neighborhood we're kind of close to. We had friends, like, not that they knew, but like we made friends pretty easily. So it was just a good environment.
You and I can relate on a specific topic, and that is parent who owns a business in Wilton.
Yeah.
There's some pressure that goes along with that. And you don't necessarily realize it when you're going through it. And when I say going through it, like going through high school, right? You're kind of doing your own thing. They're doing their thing. But as a parent, there is pressure on you having a kid that goes to school here and you run a business. Because I think in the back of people's minds, like just the public, the general public, they look at somebody who owns a business and then they look at their kid and they go, well, if they can raise a good kid, then they can run a good business.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And, right or wrong, that's just the thought process. And so there's some pressure on that. And your dad sells insurance, right?
Yep.
Country Financial.
Yep.
We'll give a plug for Country Financial, right?
He'd love that.
And the thing is with that is a position where people are going in and they're only doing business with your dad because they trust your dad, right?
Yeah.
And part of that is looking at the whole package. So when, kids are doing good and everything else, that's good for business.
Yeah.
So in other words, when you get a gift from your parents, it might not be a gift. It might just be a kickback. It might be like, hey, business is good. So whatever you're doing out there, thank you. Yeah, you're promoting the business by being a wonderful person. So I want you guys to promote, you want to promote your handles quick? Like, are you guys on social media?
Yeah.
What's your platform of choice, Kirsten?
I usually kind of Instagram Reels.
All right.
Yeah.
So if people want to follow you on Instagram, how do they find you?
Kirsten_Zeiser06.
Okay. No creeps. No creeps.
Please, no creeps.
Okay. Normal people, you'll get blocked. You'll get blocked in a hurry. Amber, how about you?
I'd say I'm mostly on Instagram or Snapchat, but I kind of go back and forth between the two. Instagram is more of my entertainment. I'm taking information in, and Snapchat is more how I contact people.
Wonderful. You care if I do some plugs?
Go for it.
Well, wait. What's your handle on the platforms?
My Instagram is AmberOin21.
Okay. Also, no creeps. No creeps. Hey, what we're looking to do though is we're building up my TikTok page because I want to dedicate that to clips and reels from this show right here, which you can find just Joe Braymeyer. You'll find me. My fat butt sitting in this chair here. There's the profile picture. And so what I want to do is I want to be able to go live on TikTok because right now we're live on my YouTube channel, which is just Joe Braymeyer, and on the Facebook page here. But I think TikTok is where it's at, especially for up at the school. So we got to get to 1,000 followers on that TikTok page before I can go live on that. And now, once we get there, now we can do the live stuff, when you're coming in before and after class.
Yeah.
So your alarm went off. You guys got to get heading to school, right?
Well, yeah, that was my Wednesday alarm.
Was that like, hey, if you're not up, you're late,
Yeah,
right?
exactly, yeah.
Okay, so this has been fun. I need you to nominate somebody to come in here. Oh, and we got to do the delve deck too. How much time we got? You got to get going, or you going to get a tardy slip?
We're good.
Okay.
We don't start school till 9:10, so we still have like 50 minutes.
9:10.
Yeah.
What is that, an everyday thing or is that a senior thing?
Just
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we got time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I want to do the delve deck here. This is a new thing. So I found this online, and it is just a whole box of questions, right? So depending on how brave you are, the light-colored cards here are like the easiest ones. These are like, what's your favorite color? And then back here is like a question here. I'll just read this last one. If you could go back and talk some sense into your teenage self, what would you say, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, in this case, I would say there are certain things you shouldn't say, So anyway, I figured I would invite you guys to pick a delve deck. You can go front, back, somewhere in between. All right. So go ahead and pick a card here. All right. Amber's going towards the back. All right. I'll let you take that. Kirsten's going a little bit closer to the front. All right. Kirsten, you read yours. You think about it. Amber, what's your card say?
What popular mental health advice actually isn't very good?
Oh, I kind of like this one. Do you want to give me an answer now, or do you want to have Kirsten read her question?
I'll have Kirsten read her question.
Okay, read your question.
What was the first major historical event you remember witnessing?
All right, you give me that answer. I bet that comes right to mind.
Yeah, COVID would probably be that one. We lived right through that, yeah.
That's wild that you would pick COVID.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess for you, that was what, 3 years? Was it 3 years ago now? 3 years ago? 4 years ago?
Uh-huh.
So then at the time, you were like 14 years old?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 8th grade, I think, is first, or what was it, freshman year?
7th grade
Seventh
is
grade?
when we went into quarantine.
Oh, okay.
Tell me about COVID. How did that affect you? Like, what was that like as a 14-year-old?
It was kind of hard. It was just a lot, like you were really alone and couldn't go out anywhere. Yeah, very lonely.
So do you feel like all the social media platforms took off as far as your
for
communication?
sure. Yeah, I would say so. I feel like for a lot of teenagers, they look to social media during COVID-19.
And I almost feel like these two questions coincide.
A little bit, yeah.
Because do you feel like because of COVID and everyone just going to that glowing little square in their hand, do you feel like that did more harm than good?
I would say so. I feel like too much social media is just bad for anyone, and being on your phone too much is not good for you.
Are you guys talking about that actively, like in school, in your social circles? Is there a movement to be like, hey, let's see how long I can put this away, or is it just too powerful of a force? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I try to, like, when I'm at school, like, I'll check the time. I'm not usually on it. We don't have a lot of downtime anyways in school, but after school, if I don't have work, I'm usually on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if we get to a point where the less you're on your phone, you almost wear it like a badge of honor.
Yeah. That would be cool, yeah.
Yeah. Because it's hard. It's like, hey, I haven't had a cookie in a whole day.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
So, yeah, that's interesting. All right, Amber, read your question again.
What popular mental health advice actually isn't very good? Okay, I'm going to kind of turn this towards athletes a little bit because this is something that I'm more passionate about as something that I did kind of struggle with as an athlete. And I actually just wrote a paper about it for my college writing class.
Okay.
So, but I think exercise, because a lot of times with athletes, you get such a plug towards exercise with mental health, and it does release endorphins and enkephalons, and it does so many good things for your body. But as an athlete, so many people overlook it because they're like, well, they're doing exercise all the time, and this plugs towards exercise, so they're like perfectly fine. But one of the biggest things with athlete mental health specifically and exercise is that the stressors and the pressures that they're facing from coaches and getting their schoolwork done and performance is completely outweighing the benefits of exercise.
That's a fantastic point of view. So in other words, just because you're going out for a sport, you shouldn't consider that your exercise. You should put that in your sport folder. And are you saying you should still take time to exercise when it has nothing to do with like in the practice room or on the field?
Yes. And even studies have shown that even 30 minutes of exercise, you can be walking, you can be lifting weights, you can be doing whatever kind of exercise that you want, as long as you are improving blood flow to your heart, and you will be releasing endorphins and enkephalons.
God, you're smart. You're smart. I kind of want to read that whole paper now. How long's the paper?
6.5 pages.
Wow. I kind of want to post it. If you bring me a copy, I'll post it on my Instagram page. Can we do that?
I can find it in my
Find it for me. I'll post it. Right? We can scroll through 6 images, right? Yeah. Sure. We'll post that. You know, on that note, as far as the mental health goes, I recently started reading again. Mm-hmm. And because I never was a reader because I was always told I needed to read. So therefore I didn't read. Yeah. Right? So I recently started reading, and it is amazing when my phone is in the other room and I sit and I stare at words on a piece of paper. And if I look up, even after 15 minutes, there's almost like a wave of relief. Like, wow, I just feel like I've just literally unplugged. Mm-hmm. And it was just me and the paper and the words. Yeah. And so I feel like as more and more young people dabble in that, the more badges of honor there's going to be out there, where they just took a little break, Yeah,
for sure.
This has been insightful. Now, I need you to nominate some people to come in here. I need you each to nominate I don't know if it'll be my next guest, but a guest coming soon. And if you guys are watching this as they nominate, I need you to tag them in the video here, so, because I want those people. So, who wants to go first? You got somebody in mind?
Ashley Swift.
Ashley Swift. Can you tell me about Ashley quickly?
So Ashley is, I mean, she's kind of another part of our group. We grew up playing sports together, and she is, she plays basketball, and I don't know, she has a lot of stories. She's very fun to talk to. She has a very unique sense of humor. So if you are just sitting down and having a conversation with her, you can be talking about the most random thing in the world and she will turn it funny.
Okay. Ashley Swift, you're nominated. And what about you, Kirsten?
I'm going to say Leela Glover.
Okay, tell me about Leela.
Yeah, so we also grew up with sports, and she's in our friend group. She's really funny, pretty easy to get along with, makes everyone feel included. She was the lead, as I said, in the musical, and yeah, she's just a really bubbly person, good to be around.
Did the musical get posted online?
It hasn't yet.
Will it be? Or not?
don't-
Do they not do that because it's a school thing and it's a weird thing with...
I don't know if it'll be posted online somewhere, but once Lisa Taylor Fern has done all of her editing, and she likes to put in really cool things with transitions and do all this stuff with her editing with her recordings of the musical, Mrs. Miller usually sends it to us, and then we can rewatch it.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
That's a far cry from the VHS camcorder sitting in the top corner of the gym on a tripod where you got to kind of squint to see your thing. So it was Leela we're nominating.
Leela Glover, yep.
And
Ashley.
Okay. But Kirsten and Amber, thank you for coming in. Yeah. This was a nice breath of fresh air, outside of dude talk, but we got to get some more dudes in here. And also, if I can nominate somebody, I don't have any names specifically, but who I would love to have, I'd love to have a musician in here. I'd love to get somebody that can play something and maybe sing something. I don't know is there anybody who plays the guitar up there or any kind of other instrument? So put your feelers out there for me. I'd love to get somebody in here playing us something.
Okay.
So there's a lot of talented kids up at that school, and I want to get to know all of you. So anyway, Kirsten, Amber, everybody, thank you very much for stopping in.
Thanks for having us.